I'm Luke Crumich, and welcome to the Basepaths. This is a word from our sponsor, Mind Baseball. Mind Baseball makes one-of-a-kind Pro Beach bats. Beechwood has more pop and higher density than a regular bat. These things are crazy. Let me tell you. All right, so I'm not good at baseball. I'm just being honest with you. I love baseball. I'm horrible at it, but I hit dingers with this thing. I was at the park, bro. I've never hit a ball so far than I have with this thing. Metal, wood, it doesn't matter what type of bat, this thing hits it further. I'm telling you. Use code Basepaths at Mind Baseball for 15% off, or you can use the link in my Instagram bio, and that will take you right to my store with this exact Storm bat as the number one option because I love this thing. So make sure you guys check out Mind Baseball. They're the best. Love those guys. And thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Base Pass. I'm your host, Luke Crumich. Joining me today, absolute stud from the class of 2023, Boston Flannery. Boston, how we doing, bro?
I'm doing amazing. I'm breathing and I'm living, so that's the best thing that I can ask for. Super excited.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, that's you're living, breathing, and we're doing this interview. This came together real quick, so I'm excited to have you on. We figured this out in like 20 minutes, which is a record. I'm just letting you know, bro. You might be the most organized person I've had on here. Um, but yeah, man, we're gonna get right into it because you're a top guy in next year's high school class, and everybody loves the high school guys because they're doing things at 18 and 17 that uh most of us mortals could barely dream of doing in throwing 92 or 93. According to PBR, you rank second in your fastball velocity at 92, and then which this was earlier this year during the high school season, so that could maybe that went up a little bit. Maybe you're hitting 93 now. We'll talk about it. Your top 10 in fastball spin rate, for those who don't know, high fastball spin rate makes the ball look like it's going up because of extra inches of carry, things like that, which a lot of teams are very big on high fastball spin rates. So we got that's going good. But yeah, man, let's go through your pitching a little bit because you're an absolute beast. You got a, let's see, 0.39 ERA. Ridiculous. As a junior, by the
In
way,
high school.
people.
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit about your pitching, your mix, and how you like to use the baseball.
So I describe myself as kind of like a workhorse. I'm not always going to be the type of guy that's going to really blow fastball by you. So I use a lot of my off speed pitches to really get ahead in counts. I like pitching backwards a lot, even when I don't need to. And I'd like showing that I can kind of just land my curveball whenever I want to. I feel like that shows really good mound presence and really good command presence. And also, I don't like losing. That's the number one thing. So nobody's gonna ever get to the plate and beat me. Sure, I've given up home runs. It's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And I'd like to say that I've never given up a home run on a good pitch. All the home runs that I've given up, which probably have been 3 this whole year, were just misses. And it was, fastball down the middle. I missed it. And stuff like that's gonna happen. It's baseball. It's a game of failure, and that's one thing that you're gonna have to really get in tune with and really learn how to deal with that, because you're not always going to succeed. And if you do, you're going to be the best human sports person ever to live, if you'd never fail in baseball. So you know it's also a lot of mindset stuff. People think that pitching is just physicality and going out there and just throwing the ball. It's really not. It's reading the hitter every single pitch, seeing how they react to each pitch, and like, do they take certain pitches if it's on the outside, inside? Do they have certain body movements if it's a fastball, curveball, changeup, etc.? So there's so much things that go into it, and you just have to be mentally strong, because if something like a home run happens, you have to turn around super quickly and get the next guy out, because that's ultimately is what is like to be seen.
I was talking to Will Sanders of South Carolina last week, and
Mm-hmm.
he basically was like, "Yeah, I make the pitcher, not the pitcher. I make the hitter work against me, not me work against them."
Exactly.
And that seems to be something that you also think. I'm sure it's a thing a lot of you got top guys think. But it's a really, cool thing for people to think about because a lot of people think, oh, it's pitcher versus hitter. It's the hitter versus the pitcher if you make it
100%.
that way.
There's constantly, I mean, the better hitters kind of have an idea what they want to hit in their head, but it's all a guessing game when you're at the plate, and especially when a guy's throwing 96 to 100, it gets extremely hard for you to be able to guess what pitch is coming. And then you pretty much will only have to sit fastball. And then if there's a guy throwing slider, changeup, slurve, knuckleball, meanwhile, he's still throwing 96, 97, 98, it just almost becomes impossible. And one thing that I love about pitching is you always have the upper hand, no matter what. The hitter can know exactly which pitch is coming, but he doesn't know where it's going to be. He doesn't know what's going to happen with it. So there's so many different possibilities that can happen, and it's honestly crazy.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about your pitches in particular. So you have, fastball, two seam, and four seam.
Hmm.
You have a changeup, curveball, and you have a slider.
I do.
Yeah, so you topped out at 95, which is ridiculous, is going into your senior year here. You want to talk a little bit about your pitches themselves?
Sure. So I liked to, and especially during high school, I did throw a lot of fastballs. And it was good because I wasn't just throwing them down the middle. I was really spotting up my pitches and making sure that each one had its own thing to do. But with pretty much my four seam, I would always get ahead in counts with my four seam. So it would always be first pitch strike, no matter what. And then, if hitters started to adjusting to it and know they were getting a first pitch fastball, then I'd switch to my slider or my curveball. But my four seam, I really like my four seam the best just because I feel like I have very good command with it. And it's just pretty much, it's my favorite pitch to throw, And then my two seam, I work in a lot on lefties and, righties that are kind of, catching up to the curveball. So then I'll throw my two seam inside, get a lot of broken bats. And my two seam likes to drop. It doesn't really, because like with the two seam, normally the ball will run. My two seam acts like a really fast changeup. So it'll come in at probably 90, 91 and just drop. So that's one pitch that I really like to have play off my fastball. And then so I've been working on my curveball and slider and kind of develop more of like a slurve. So that's my favorite pitch to throw off my fastball, off my four seam, because when I throw it low, I've had hitters tell me that it's almost impossible to see the different spin on it. So they'll think it's a curveball coming right at their kneecap and drop right in for a strike. So I really like to play that off my four seam a lot. And my changeup is just, I really developed it in June. So high school season I was throwing, just like a palm ball and just hoping that that it would drop. So, but then I really developed it in June, and it started becoming a really good pitch for me. And I've had higher ups and people tell me that that's going to be my pitch moving forward. So I'm really hoping to, especially this winter, down and really, really, really work on that pitch because I feel like once I master it, it's going to be one of those wipeout pitches for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous that you were throwing a palm ball and had a .39 ARA. That's so ridiculous, dog. That was your changeup all year, and that's one of your main four pitches.
Yeah.
That's so insane. That just shows, first of all, you understand the game extremely well. You just went on that whole, speech about all different types of ways that you can work off of each pitch. And it shows that even at such a young age, you really understand pitching. And I
Mhm.
think that's a big thing for a lot of teams. People that I've spoke to, a guy who's in high school who understands how his pitches work is better than a guy with just crazy stuff coming out of high school.
100%.
Because if you know what you can do, you're going to be better than the guy who's just throwing things.
Hmm.
And I mean, that showed this year with a lot of the high schoolers who were taken in the first round. Those were guys who knew how to pitch, like my boy Owen Murphy. He knew
Yeah.
what to do with each of his pitches. And that's something that, you just basically explained everything you can do and everything you know to do off your pitches. And what hitters have told you, yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff works. Like, yeah, all right, you're right on that. So that's awesome, dude. And everything you just went through was so cool to listen to. You talked a little bit about mindset. Talk through going into these showcases and stuff like that against, other top level content, not just, high school games against guys coming out of calculus class and then having to face a guy who throws 91. Talk about going against those other upper echelon guys.
So, it was kind of like an awakening for me coming out of high school because last year I didn't get invited to any big events, so I wasn't really on that circuit. I'd go to perfect game tournaments and, throw against, it would be so spotty. I'd throw against really good guys and then guys that aren't, up to that level. Um, but the first event that I did this summer, PDP, it was crazy, because going and throwing against all these top hitters in the country, it was so awesome because like you learn so many things about yourself. Like in high school, I would just blow fastballs by people, and then I go there and that doesn't work anymore. So like I mean, it's so fun to play around because for some hitters it does, for some hitters it doesn't, but the majority I can't blow 94, 95 by people anymore. That just isn't, especially at the pro level, it just doesn't happen. um, so throwing against them was really awesome, just in the grand scheme of things. And doing it all summer, I feel like has really, really, really prepared me for what's going to happen in July of next year. And it's going to be it's just going to be a really good experience. And but honestly, like just being around, you want to be around other superstars. And I feel like that's the biggest thing because when you're playing around people, you know, that like you never want to be the smartest guy in the room ever. And like I feel like that can go around for any type of, sport or anything. You never want to be the best where you are. So you always want to have competition. And I feel like competition just breeds greatness because, without that, there's some people that can go into a showcase without any competition and do amazing, but then you put them in a game situation and they can't do the same thing. So it's all about, having that perseverance and that competition aspect, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to be at the pro level. Not none of these showcases or how hard you can throw across the diamond. If you can't throw it to them, it doesn't matter. So it's all about the game aspect for me.
Clearly, you have, as I just said before, you have a great understanding of the game, and being able to know that you need to learn from what you're doing in these showcases and not
Hmm.
be one of those guys who has, a few bad pitches and then gets mad at themselves for that, and then that
Exactly.
ruins the entire tournament or showcase or whatever for them because they're in
Hmm.
their own heads. You're able to be like, "Hey, this isn't going to work. I'm going to do this." And then, you just said you developed a changeup, what, 2 months ago? And you already have
Yeah.
people saying, "Hey, this is your pitch. Like, this is going to be the thing for you." Um, and obviously, that's something that being able to get to refine that against this top talent all summer must be so valuable to you. And you can clearly, from the way you talk, you appreciate that. And I think that's a huge, maturity thing that not a lot of guys have. And it takes a special type of person to have that.
Appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit more about, you as a person, not just, the prospect. What made you fall in love with the game of baseball?
Wow. So I started really playing baseball when I was around 9 years old. And it was just one of those things where you can't, it's unexplainable. It's just a feeling that you get whenever you on that field and whenever you're watching a game. It's just you can't really explain it. It's just how I feel. And I never really felt that with the sport that I played because I played football and basketball. And like it was fun. It's fun to go play those sports and have fun in them and do good. But at the end of the day, like I just love baseball, and I feel like it best suits me and how I am as a person. And because I'm very competitive, and no matter what it is, if it comes down to even schoolwork or mowing the lawn, I'm gonna beat you in whatever I do. So it's that's just how I'm set. And it's crazy because when I'm on the mound and I'm playing, I do have a certain kind of cockiness and arrogance to me because that's just how I play the game. And you can ask anybody. There's two different sides of me. Like when you play against me, I feel like you're gonna hate me just because I'm gonna want to dominate you for 7 innings or 9 innings, however long it is, and then that because that's just I want to win, and when people want to win, they have a certain type of thing to them. But then off the field, I'm going to be your best friend, no matter who you are. And it was cool because especially this summer, I threw against Kane National. I threw pretty well against them. And then, like I kind of got into it with a couple of the players on their team, just because, like that's just how I play the game. And you see it with, a bunch of pro guys, that's just how they play the game. But then, it was actually really funny because then when I got to PDP, half their roster was on my team. So, I was like, when I first saw them, I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good because they were all on my team. I was like, oh man. So, but then, I showed them that that's not me, like my actual person. And really good relationships with all of them. And, and they were, dude, we like, I thought they were going to hate my guts, but then when I started talking to them, they were like, dude, like we get it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you have to play the game at the end of the day, because once you start, giving people passes, and once you start, like taking them lightly, that's when you're going to lose. You can never put your guard down, and you can never, ever, ever just like give up. And that's the biggest thing for me is playing with a chip on my shoulder and never wanting to lose is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I think that fire that you're talking about, getting into it with some batters or whatever it is something that in baseball has always been there and
Mhm.
like is always needed. In football, there were times where, yeah, obviously, like people get chippy because you're hitting people, but like there wasn't always people talking trash in press conferences in football. But for baseball, people have been, chirping at each other for forever, basically.
Exactly.
Um, and a lot of guys are, leadership through passion is the best type of leadership for a lot of people, especially in baseball. And you clearly have that fire in you. So that's another thing that is just adding to how good of a player you are. You get the game and you love it and you have this passion for it, which is really cool to see, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about recruiting. I know you're not committed anywhere. I listen, I do that much research. But
But I've been through the process. I've been through
yeah,
it.
exactly. So I just want to because baseball recruiting's so weird. Like it's so weird. People are recruiting
And
kids. Yeah, no, it's completely different because you have top guys who aren't getting offers until their senior year, and then you have guys who are getting offers in seventh grade and they never pan out. Like it's just so different. So talk a little bit about that process for you, man.
so I'll kind of go into both processes before before I was even committed, and then for people that have decommitted and are kind of scared on what they should do and how they should go about that. But pretty much the first recruiting process was, I found it really cool. And when I first committed to USF, I was a freshman, so I was speaking to them before I even played a high school game. And I was speaking to a lot of colleges before I even played one high school game. So, you know, and also when people tell you you have to play a high school game before you can talk to colleges, that's not true. Just go play the summer circuit. That's the best thing that you can do. I promise you, if you're not in, you know, dead red Florida or Georgia, there's not going to be any college scouts there to see you. So but it was a really fun process because it was just it was something I was not used to at all. And, for me, I love being put in positions where, I feel like I don't know, because then I can learn and adapt. And then that will just put me over the top, just because once you know how to learn and adapt to something, then you can apply that to everything in life. But with recruiting, my biggest advice to people is to not get scared, to not play scared, because what these scouts want to see from you is you play your and a lot of people think that like, oh, this school's coming to see me play today, I have to play a different way. No, they're coming to see you because they've heard how you play and they like the way that you play. So there's so many things that people will start doing, like they'll start overthrowing, and and especially like I used to do this, but one thing, the biggest advice that I could give is for pitchers is to not overthrow. The whole thing with this recruiting process is projectability. So you don't have to go out there and throw 93 as a freshman. I did it by accident, like, and it kind of, but like, it, you have to, you really have to just play your own game because at the end of the day, they're looking for guys that are going to be their guy in 4 years. You know what I mean? So, you can you can hit 92 as a freshman, but if you're still doing it inconsistently as a senior, then anything is they want to see growth and projectability. So that's my biggest advice for that. And then especially for guys that decommit, no matter what school it is, it's going to be a little bit of a different process just because there's so many rules that you kind of have to follow. Like some schools don't like if you post a decommitment post because then it feels like it's just like kind of like you want attention or something. So there's certain do's and don'ts, but at the end of the day, like you just got to keep playing your game. And I don't like not all the schools that you want to are going to reach out to you. And then you just gotta take it one step at a time. That's the biggest thing. Don't rush into anything. I decommitted in March. I played the whole summer circuit uncommitted. So, and I'm still taking this process really slow because at the end of the day, I'm making the right decision because wherever I go, I'm going to be there. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing with Basepath. There's so many that's why this podcast is named what it is. There's so many different routes that you as a player can take to get to the show, whether it's, like you can go to a small school and you can still get drafted high and then you can go to the pros, or you can go to a big school and then you can draft high, same thing, or you can go right out of high school. You're one of those guys who's gonna, you're gonna have to make that choice of, hey, do I go college? Do I go right to the league? And it's something that is unique to baseball. Nowhere else has that. I mean, basketball used to have it with like LeBron and Kobe, but that's
But
it's
it's
that's
very
a long time ago.
rare to go out of high school. It's very rare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and in football, you can't even. It's illegal to go out of high school to the NFL. You have to play in college. So it's like it's so weird how all these sports are different. But then with baseball, like a predominant amount of kids that went in the draft are like high school kids. So it's so weird to think about.
There's just so many paths in baseball, and it only makes it better that, the way to score is through the base paths, and,
Exactly. Exactly.
like that's the way to get to your goal is to take your own path and
Mhm.
to run, you know, the correct race for you, not necessarily the correct race for all these guys who came before you. Like your route isn't going to be the same as another, high school guy who gets drafted maybe the same spot as you a year before. He might have chosen to go to, college and or go to league, and you might do the opposite or whatever, same thing. So we're gonna move on to a little bit more about you the person. We talked about why you love baseball, but let's get into, who Boston is with questions from my mother. So first up, we got what's your favorite food and then your favorite restaurant. So that's a two-parter right there.
So, man, I'm gonna have to go with sushi for my favorite food. I'm a huge sushi guy. Um, I try and because fish is really good for your mind. So, I also just love it. I get tuna and salmon and a bunch of stuff on that. But favorite restaurant, honestly, I don't know. Um, Actually, you know what? I do know. Uh, it was when I was just in San Diego, and it's this place called Mimo's, and it's an Italian restaurant. And oh my god, the food was out of this world. You know what I mean? And it was just so good to the point where I had to stop forcing myself to eat because I couldn't move after I was done eating. That's how good the food was. Um, but then probably that's like around the country, but local for me is Franco's Pizzeria. um my best friend, it's actually his pizzeria, and the food that they make is exceptional, and that's probably a place that I'll eat at the most when I'm home. And especially during the winter and the fall when I'm home constantly, that's the place that is my go-to. They make amazing pizza. They have these things called Thai chili strips. by far my favorite because they have the perfect amount of spice and just flavor. But honestly, if you're in that Northeast area or that New York Rockland County, go and check out Franco's because it's exceptional and you won't be let down.
Listen, I in my opinion, Italian food is either literally the best food you can eat out or it's not good. Like there is no Italian place. It's
No,
either
no, no, no.
very good or very bad. So I
It's,
respect that answer, dog. Like
Thank you.
that's great. Pizzeria, you can't go wrong with that.
Never,
Um,
never.
and especially when you know the people who make it, and you're like, all right, so this is why this is so good because these people put their sweat into it. Um,
Hmm.
all right, let's move on to the second question. What's your,
Awesome.
fate? I'm not gonna do current. I'm gonna do favorite walkout song or like your
Favorite walkout
dream
song.
one. You're walking into your first major league start, right? What's your walkout song?
Oh man. Uh this is really tough. This is really tough because there's so many new songs that keep coming out that just become my favorites out of nowhere. Um, but honestly, I think I'd have to go with "Gasolina" by Daddy Yankee. That song is that gets me hyped no matter how I'm feeling. And I feel like if a pitcher comes out to that throwing 100, and I don't want to be a hitter.
Nah, I'm
So
good. I'm good. I'll take,
I'll go
I'll
back.
take
I'll
my
go back to the
strikeout.
dugout.
I'll
You
take my
guys can find
strikeout and go. Dude,
a pitch.
I'm not even swinging at that. Just strike me out. Like it's over.
100%.
Um, all right, let's see. Growing up, who
Hmm.
was your favorite player?
Growing up, um, I did grow up watching Derek Jeter, and I was watching the game where he got his 3,000th hit, and I was at the game where he got his last hit of his career. So it was it was awesome, because there's not really a lot of I'm from New York, and so obviously when I'm growing up, I'm gonna be a Yankees fan. That's I'm a Dodgers fan now, but that's besides the point. But you're growing up, you're kind of forced to be a Yankee fan. The Mets are cool, but nobody's gonna really tell you to go for the Mets, which I don't understand. The Mets have been so good lately, but you're gonna be a Yankee fan, um, and just watching Derek and how he played the game, I really liked it. And that's one thing that I do like about the Yankees too is they don't take any crap at all. Especially playing for, representing the Yankees during the area code games. We went through a full Yankees schedule and a full Yankees warm up, and we were told to play the game how they play their game. We had to show up cleanly shaven. And I was like, wow, this is this is a tournament. Like this is crazy. But I forgot we're representing the Yankees, and that was a really really big thing that I really liked because at a lot of tournaments, your coach is going to say, hey, go stretch and throw and be ready for the game in 30 minutes. Meanwhile, when we got there, we had a regiment. We had to get there 2.5 hours before every game. So we had an 8 a.m. game. We were on the field stretching by 5:45.
That's
And
ridiculous.
I mean, it kind of sucked to wake up a little bit, but at the end of the day, we all ended up playing better because we were all better prepared for the guys that were showing up at 7 o'clock, getting ready to play an hour later. Meanwhile, we've already been up, we've stretched, we're loose, we've had a bunch of food, so it's. I know I'm kind of going off topic, but I feel like I just want to say it because at the end of the day, I'd say Derek Jeter was probably my favorite person to watch ever growing up.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm from Jersey, so I'm a Yankee fan too.
Yeah.
No, again, even in Jersey, nobody tells me to be a Mets fan. Like, I got a Mickey Mantle
Yeah.
poster right there, dog. Like, this
Oh
is
yeah.
how it's just how it is. But yeah, like growing up, I was a big Brett Gardner guy, just because he's Brett Gardner.
Mhm.
Like, he was just a regular dude.
100%.
Um, so yeah, and then he was literally he was a normal guy playing baseball. Like, I was taller
He's a
than
normal guy and somebody you can relate to.
yeah, I was taller than him in like freshman year. Like, it's ridiculous how good he was at baseball. Uh, I don't get how he does it. All right, last question. Here we go. Without baseball, what would your
Mhm.
career be?
I've found a love in honestly physical therapy. Um, I like because I did have, some problems with my arm and my physical therapist is, became one of my really good friends. I spending a lot of time with him, and he'd be telling me how their job works, and I was like, I actually really like the way this works, and I'd probably work my way up to owning my own physical therapy place for athletes, and because it's cool. You're still around athletes, you're still around, professional guys and guys that want to get better. And that I feel like that's the biggest thing for me is surrounding yourself with people that always want to get better. And as a physical therapist, the reason why people are coming to you is because they want to get better and they want to feel better again. So, and it's just cool because you also learn a lot about the human body, and you learn a lot about just how people tick and what makes them move, and how to be able to fix things. And it's, as a physical therapist, you're able to you know just do that. And I always love helping people. That's one of the biggest things for me is helping people, and just seeing like a smile on somebody's face. And like if I was able to do that after my baseball career, I think I'm gonna 100% do it, because there's nothing better than getting the recognition or the gratitude from somebody that's been in my shoes before. And I feel like I felt that same exact feeling with my physical therapist after I was able to throw again after a long and painful, kind of run with my arm injury a couple years ago.
Dude, before we close, because that was my last question for you, I just want to say your mindset is so like next level for a guy your age, dude. It is
Thank
awesome to talk to you. You just really get it, not only on the baseball side of things, but the mental side of things. And then putting that all together and wanting to help people and make people better. That is such a cool way to think about life, bro. And I think
thank you.
that you're gonna succeed and do great things in baseball. And I wish you the best. Thank you to everybody who's listening, watching, however you're doing it. Um, Make sure to check out my boy Boston here. He's gonna be having a crazy senior season, and then I'll make sure to keep y'all updated with everything about him come draft time and all that. But yeah, thank you for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.